Vincent, I wanted to start with you first. There's something so special when the right script comes across the right team, and you have such a deep connection to the sport of boxing, but it was such a refreshing and different take on a sports drama. Can you share a little bit about why this is such a personal story to you and how Will script came across your desk? How did that connection aid you throughout this process?
The script came to me from Jesse Ozeri, one of our exec producers. He is very close with Will. I had known of Will, I had not met him before. But I fell in love with that story. Even if I didn't have a deep connection to the sport, I think it's one of the scripts that's just it's rare you read one that is that strong. That's what, as a filmmaker, I'm always in the hunt for is a good script. I'm genre agnostic, you know. I've dabbled in different genres. For me, it's just what do you feel like at the time? And um, yeah, so for me, the sport is very special. I was no by no means was I a professional fighter or anything like that. I had done it for training and sort of grew up watching the sport with my grandfather and my dad and my parents, and it's my favorite sport, simple as that. And I wasn't even out to make a boxing movie, but this one again spoke for itself, so I just fell in love with it, and yeah, here we
It's
are.
an incredible film and so captivating to watch. And Tim, you have this innate gift to disappear into a character, and there's so much complexity when it comes to Bang Bang. As an actor, how did you create the space for yourself to step into his shoes and explore his tragic past? And how have your prior experiences directing and writing influenced the way that you now interpret scripts and characters like this?
Hmm. Sorry, guys. My answer is going to be so long that there won't be any more time. Uh, no, I'll try to be succinct, but that's a lot, and they're good questions.
Deep
Uh,
question.
so I don't think I could have played this part 10 years ago, even if I'd been the right age. I think Will Janowitz wrote an extraordinary role here. And it certainly is demanding a role as I've ever played, both physically and also the emotional and character history components um, came together to create a sort of perfect storm of challenge, and that was very exciting. And that's one of the reasons I took the film on was the writing, but also it was Vincent. Uh, I I'd gotten to know Vincent a little bit because he'd asked me to be in another film of his, and I loved the way he went about um, approaching me for that role. I just knew that he was a good, classy guy. And when this role came my way, I knew that Vincent was going to allow me the time and space to get it right. So I had because I came on early also as a producer on the movie, uh, a sort of secondary producer, but a producer all the same. Um, I had a good 6 months to work on the role and make sure that the conditions were going to be right for me not to disappoint Vincent. And um, for his part, he gave me that space and supported me and guided me. And so that gave me the confidence to take this on. And I think there's a wonderful acting teacher named William Esper who said it really does take at least 20 years to become an actor. Um, and I was in the right space and had done enough work and enough of these characters that when combined with Vincent's guidance and his generosity in terms of creating the space to work on the role, uh, made taking this on possible and gave me the confidence to do it.
I cannot imagine another actor playing this role. And then Andrew, you grew up as an athlete, and in so many roles that you've done recently, there's a physicality to the characters that you've played. What was the training process like for this film, and how does that prep work allow you to further tap into your own connection with this character?
Yeah, it was a really interesting process because when I auditioned for the film, My character Justin was kind of written as like a gangly alien looking kid, who was very skinny
But we
and
only they got it's the gangly part that we got put up. Alien
yeah.
looking.
So I've been training a lot, and I boxed growing up as well. And then I would send Vince a bunch of emails before I even booked the part, just asking him clarity on the character and what he wants to see. And I think we all kind of got to a place of like who we want Justin to be and how we want him to look. So I put on a little bit of size. I mean, I was putting on size, and I think that it all kind of worked out in a sense of the anger within the character kind of physically came through as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
To add to that, um, it's something that it really showed how Justin or casting Andrew brought out the character, because initially when I read it, he wasn't something that I think Bang Bang's character would have seen and been like seeing all these different traits about him to be like, man, this guy's a fighter. Like,
Mm.
wait a minute. It wasn't necessarily like that in the script to the degree it is in the movie. And I'm really happy that came out, because in Andrew, it was like, it was a little more obvious. It wasn't, I felt if Tim's character didn't have these little signs, why would he do that? It would actually make him kind of a worse person to throw his kid to the wolves like that if
Mhm.
this kid didn't have these elements and potential that he saw. And it isn't, his motivation isn't clearly all that, but it's a big part of the initial jump. And Andrew brought a lot of that, the physicality and just his size alone, and then seeing the weaknesses as in his eye and stuff like
Mhm.
that. It's just he's juggling with, oh, okay, well, he's got a big head too, and oh, okay, and then it leads to where the story takes off.
Yeah, that's a great point. And perfect segue to this next question. But Vincent, not only did you direct this, but you also edit it as well. And it's often the stage where the film really takes its forms. Were there any discoveries or themes that you made during that process that may have been less relevant during the filming experience?
Um, no, not really. I mean, I edit pretty quick, and it's to me, editing is just a part of directing now. I think I would never go back to having an editor. That said, I'd get a lot of opinions after having a first cut of the film, and I like to really prep the movie and post as best as I can, and I'm very fast, but nothing, we did do one day of pickups in post that Tim was in LA, and we shot a couple elements of the movie that I felt were missing that would add a little bit more to his character, because he's a very brash, kind of crabby older guy who's
Hmm.
resentful in a lot of ways and grumpy. And we added a sprinkle of a couple elements to his character that I feel were a little bit contrast to that. And so, if anything, that was one thing that came up, that we were like, let's give him a little bit more of this, and it adds to the depth and the ending of the film too.
Hmm. And Tim, there's a lot of unexpected humor within this film due to Bang Bang's views and the things that he says, which is something that he's become known for. How much of what we see is scripted versus improvised, and how are you able to toe that line so seamlessly about how far to push this character while still keeping him so grounded?
Well, there was a degree of improvisation, but anything that I do that's funny in the movie, even if I improvised it, I really took from Will Janowitz's script. So Will Janowitz is the guy who came up with this character, and if I did some improvising, I still give credit to him for any of it that worked. And to Vince for editing it in the right way and curating it in the right way. There's probably some stuff that got left on the cutting room floor that should be that's where it should be. But and The second half of your question was the complexity of
Knowing how far to push this character while also keeping him so grounded.
oh yeah, my attitude about that is that the director is the conductor, and as an instrumentalist, I don't know, and maybe the director is like Charles Mingus as a conductor, so it's jazz conducting, not necessarily so much classical conducting, because you can improvise and stray a little bit within the modal parameters or what have you. And so I just like to give the director as much as I can and as much variation as I can, so that he or she
Mm.
can have more to work with, uh, and have the confidence that I've done my work in prep to where none of that's going to be a waste of time. Uh, Meaning, I'm never going to go so far that it's not going to be useful in in any way, shape, or form. I don't like to waste the director's time. In other words, it should always be about the character, not the actor.
Mm.
You know what's interesting about that, Tim, is it's rare as like even a director where there's a sort of jumping off point. And I think for me, seeing like it was kind of like, whoa, he's already in it, was the accent that you did, and kind of it transforms you in an instant way. So when I really saw that, I was like, oh wow, like he's he's going for it with an accent and all that. Because I mean, if you wanted to get into that at all, but that's something I just admire the hell out of, how one day you just were doing this accent. I don't know what the work you did with it, but it was awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and it was very helpful. But again, I felt that if I didn't do that, I wasn't giving you what you needed as a director, and what the character is written merited and demanded. Because anybody that specific to a place who grew up toward the
Mm.
middle of the last century, before the internet, uh, it is just going to have the dialect of that place if they're lower, if they grew up lower class. Um, and these were all truths with Bang Bang. And I think that movies, as a sort of archival phenomenon, are going to be a great gift to future generations,
Yeah.
uh, because accents are disappearing, dialects are disappearing. Um, but that's the truth of the character. It always seemed to me, and I don't know. Maybe it's a weakness, but also a strength of mine as an actor. It really is both, because it's a weakness too. That a dialect is very freeing for me.
Mm.
Uh,
Also, your work with David Afferton, how you guys like completely crafted the look of who Bang Bang is was awesome. And it kind of also like inspired me to like sit down and talk to David and be like, how do we make Justin freaky? How do we make him look like he's been through it with the eye and the eyebrow slit, which is like a scar? Like it was also very inspiring for me to kind
Mm.
of throw myself into this character as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he's referring to a makeup artist with whom I work pretty much on every film now, and his name is David Atherton. And he's not only a gift in terms of my own performances, but when I can bring him on to films, indie films, where I'm also a producer and the director is open to it,
Yeah.
which to his credit, Vince was. This is a guy who has a theater background and an acting background, but who loves what he does as a makeup artist. He's an older guy, a little older than I am, and he's just a magician at helping an actor build character.
It's transformative. I think I have time for one more question. Andrew, last question for you, and we'll wrap it up. There's such an interesting parallel between boxing and acting, how film set feels like stepping into the ring. You're speaking so highly about this film experience. What did you learn about your own craft, having collaborated with everybody that you'll now bring to your next project?
a lot of things. Watching Tim and Vince kind of sit down and talk everything through and how they operate and how they work was extremely inspiring from the acting front. Seeing how many different things Tim would try, but all in the realm of who Bang is, kind of pushed me in a way to give as much as I could possibly give and let the director take is whatever they want to take. And then, yeah, I mean, boxing, I connect a lot of sports to how I approach acting. It's all in preparation. And at the end of the day, if you're not prepared, it's a kind of a crapshoot. And I think I prepared a lot for this film, and I think that we all kind of everyone was super passionate about it, and that's why I think you can see the
Yeah.
passion in the film, and I think that's another thing I learned, which is like it didn't feel like work, as cliche as that sounds, but it felt like we wanted to make something special. So yeah.
Yeah.